So first I said, how much my kids got? Well, okay, I guess we'll just take that out. You know, the kids get ready for the college. Okay, they give me that. And then I said, how much money do I have in my checking account? I don't remember exactly. We'll say $20,000. And I said, now I got $25,000 in my account. Well, what exactly is that? Well, that's a demand deposit account. That means I can get it on demand, right? Yeah, okay. Well, I demand it. Give it to me. Oh, we don't have it. Oh, you can't do that. And around and around. So then they said, well, won't you take the cashier's check? So I thought a minute, and I said, well, what's a cashier's check? Well, that's a check written on this bank by this bank. Oh, why didn't you tell me that? I'll take that. So they write me out a check, and I can't remember now if it was 20 or 25. Seems to me like actually the kids had 5 and I had 25, but that's immaterial. And so I got it, I looked at it, and I said, now this is a check written by this bank on this bank, right? Yeah. So I endorsed it and said, now cash your check. If you don't, I'm going to the sheriff because I think it's against the law to write bad checks. I think that's a criminal offense, isn't it? Boy, you don't think they didn't get nervous. I found out later they called all the banks around, they called my creditors, they called everybody, trying to find somebody who would stop me, take me out of there. And I just kept insisting, it's so fun, they didn't know what to do. So I got all the hundreds and all the 50s and all the 20s, and had just a little tiny pile of 10s when I finally got there. If I had just $5,000 more, they'd have swept the floor for a penny. And I'd have still went to the sheriff. We could all do these things. There's so many things we could do if we just got off our dead ass and quit. And you're not going to like me for this either. If we quit our meeting, grumbling, eating, and retreating. And that's what most of us do. I've been to thousands of meetings. We came, we ate, we met, we grumbled a little, and then we retreated home and did nothing.
It's power in numbers.
You bet your boots. And I can tell you how easy it is. And I'll answer your question in just a second. There was a guy by the name of David Duke in Colorado that wanted to get a bill passed. Charlie Duke. You're right. You're right. Correct me on that. It's Charles Duke. And he had a chairman of the committee that would not give him a hearing for anything. He had lots of sponsors. And so he finally got on 2 or 3 radio shows and some other things and had all of these guys give out his home number and his office number and everything. You guys all called him. It just took 2 days and he said, Charles, I'll do anything. You just stop the phone calls. Have anybody heard of Tim Penny? Tim Penny. Yeah. He used to be a congressman in Minnesota. One time he said he'd like to help me. At that time, there was a group in California, in Chicago that had a hotline that you could call in and they'd give you the hottest tip of the day or what you ought to do or what they'd like to see you do. So I called them and I said, would you put over that hotline and have everybody that calls in there call their own congressman and ask them to call Tim Penny and help him help Mr. Dale. And then he did. And it just wasn't one day that I got home from work and I'd had a dozen calls from Tim Penny. He was just begging me to stop them phone calls. I said, I can't do that. I didn't do it. They did it. But I can give you their number and you can call them and that's all I can do for you. I'm sorry, Tim. And so he did and they recorded it. And sent me the recording. And he said, you got to stop it. Well, Tim, you're the people's hero. He said, you got to stop it. All these congressmen are calling me from all over the hill and wanting to know what the heck I'm doing that everybody's calling them and want us to help you. What are you doing? And so they said, well, Tim, you're the people's hero. I don't want your hero. So they, respect for the guy, they stopped the call. After that, he never talked to me again. It's that easy. I have a bill that would create brand new money in Minnesota, but the state banks create it as a payment and spend it in to rebuild the roads. It's got sponsors. It's had hearings. The only problem is I had 2 hearings, one in the House and one in the Senate last year, but I didn't get them passed, and that really woke up the bankers. Now they won't even talk to me down there. But if I just had enough people that would call down to them committee chairman and then people on that committee and call them at home and call them at work and call them there until they couldn't use their phones and they couldn't sleep at night, it would only take 2 days and I'd have that thing passed in the law. It's that simple. I can't find 5 people who do that for me. I don't think I've ever found 2. People who know, people who work with me, but they won't pick up that phone.
Why?
I don't know. I'd like to know. Maybe they're all afraid of the bankers. I don't know. Most of them got a mortgage.
You gotta be scared of them bankers. I know that.
Well, you know, if we get over being scared of them and actually do this, they wouldn't have the power to do it anymore.
Right. You're right.
We could take all them away. There's a lot more of us than there are them. But they're united because I know for a fact, after I had the hearing, the next year, they sent out a letter to every banker and told them they don't want this bill touched. And after that, I could tell the difference down the hall. And now people used to, hi, Byron. What you do is you understand, you get a little bill like we got in the legislature, and then you just call them night and day. Just nice little phone calls, so they can't sleep, and they can't use their phones down at the Capitol. And I guarantee you they'll pass that bill. They can't stand that kind of pressure. Tommy told me the other day here on the news, some outfit started some little thing about calling the legislators. Legislator got 15 calls, and he was so upset he was just screaming. What would happen if they got 200 or 300 of them a day? Now, this is another story I don't share with you very often. When I was doing all this, I used to call Tom Dashiell's office every week when I was still on the farm. And I would tell him how bad it was and how bad people were suffering from this very, very high interest. And then they had a little incident in North Dakota where the marshals and some farmer out there got in a shootout. And so anyway, it was rumored that I knew him. And I hadn't met him once, that was all. He dropped in my house one day and introduced himself. He seemed like a nice guy. In fact, I know he was. He was an honest man, which was more different than the marshal. And so they called me in and they wanted to know if I knew where he was. And I didn't have a clue, and that is the truth. And I said, well, I don't, but I wouldn't tell you if I did. And the one guy said, even if we gave you $320,000? Not even in gold? I said, are you kidding? I don't know, so I couldn't do it if I tried. If I did, you wouldn't pay me anyway. But you know, I found a reporter that actually wrote a story about that hit the headlines. Rancher offered $380,000 to tell him where Garden Call was. And next week, when I called Tom Dashiell's office, the woman on the phone, almost in tears, she said, Byron, you don't have a clue what you've done. I said, what are you talking about? Since that article came out about you, our phones have not quit ringing. We got the power to do anything to these suckers, but we just got to unite. Instead of everybody running off in a different direction and starting a different club.
Yep.
We've got to unite with a plan, an objective, and work at it. And work at it hard. And get our friends and neighbors, and get all the Tea Party members and everybody else, and get them to understand the real truth. The truth is, we got the power, they got the bluff. But, I don't want to fight them. And of course, if we do it one at a time, they're going to win every time. That's why I never fuss with the IRS. Because no matter what you do, that always ends up about you and them. And I guarantee you, one little fat farmer, and I wasn't even fat then, and 42 cops is a pretty short war. Right. Especially if you don't even know you're in the war. Yeah. You don't even know there's war happening. But Jefferson Madison said, if you ever get one group of people or one individual that controls all three branches of government, that is the definition of tyranny. Right. And today, the Bar Association all controls all three branches of government. Now, if you have separation of powers, how in the world can you have a lawyer as an officer of the court and the judicial system and then serve in the executive and the legislature branches at the same time? Just tell me how that could possibly be. Nobody pays any attention to our Constitution, except when they want to. Then they find it convenient. But we have the power, we have the knowledge, we know what to do. But I can't do it alone. You can't do it alone. Not a man and a woman could do it alone. But we've united all the people of Minnesota that we could understand this, we could do it.